Listen, I need to tell you something, and you are probably not going to believe me. But I was there. I saw it with all three of my ocular organs, and I still have trouble processing what happened that day in the Grand Assembly Hall. My name is Vork. Just Vork. No fancy titles, no impressive lineage markers, nothing special. I am a junior administrative clerk for the Galactic Council, which is basically the most boring job in the known universe. My responsibilities include taking notes during diplomatic sessions, filing reports that nobody reads, and occasionally fetching refreshments for delegates who treat me like furniture. The day everything changed started like any other Tuesday. Well, not exactly Tuesday, but you humans have infected our calendar system with your terminology, so let us just call it Tuesday for simplicity. The Grand Assembly Hall was buzzing with activity. Delegates from 47 different species had gathered for what promised to be the most contentious vote in recent memory. The issue? Whether to allow humanity full membership into the Galactic Council. Now, before you get all excited, let me explain something. Humans were kind of a joke to us. I mean, you people had only achieved faster than light travel about 30 years ago. 30 years. The Krell had been cruising through hyperspace for 12,000 years. The Vexillans? 20,000. Even the Blorps, who are basically sentient fungus colonies, had figured out warp technology 3,000 years before humans stopped hitting each other with rocks. So when Ambassador Lyra Martinez walked into that hall, you can imagine the reception she got. Actually, no, you probably cannot imagine it. Let me paint you a picture. The Krell delegation, led by High Commander Thorax, started laughing, not like polite chuckling. I am talking full-on, gasping for air, slapping their exoskeletons, kind of laughing. The Vexillans, who normally maintained this insufferable air of superiority, actually cracked smiles. Even the Blorps were rustling in what I can only describe as mycelial amusement. Ambassador Martinez stood at the entrance, 5 feet and 4 inches of pure human determination, wearing a simple black suit that looked absolutely ridiculous next to the elaborate ceremonial armor and flowing robes of the other delegates. Her hair was pulled back in a no-nonsense bun. She carried a single data pad. No entourage, or no fancy hover platform, no intimidating battle scars or impressive tentacles. She looked, and I hate to say this, completely ordinary. High Commander Thorax was the first to speak. His voice boomed through the chamber, amplified by the natural resonance of his chitinous throat structure. Ah, yes, the human representative. We were beginning to think you got lost on the way here. These corridors can be quite confusing for species that still navigate primarily by sight. More laughter. Even I felt a slight tremor of amusement, though I quickly suppressed it. It was not professional. Ambassador Martinez just smiled. It was a small smile, barely noticeable, but I caught it. I was sitting close to the main floor, frantically setting up my recording equipment, and I had a good view of her face. That smile should have been a warning. It was the kind of smile a predator makes right before it strikes, but nobody else seemed to notice. The session began with Protocol Master Zelvin, a Vexillan with more titles than sense, droning on about parliamentary procedure. The actual vote would not happen until each species had a chance to present their arguments for or against human membership. The opponents went first, naturally. They always did. High Commander Thorax took the main platform, his massive form casting shadows across the entire assembly. Distinguished delegates. He began, his voice dripping with condescension. We are here to discuss the application of humanity for full council membership. Now, I want to be clear. I have nothing against humans personally. They are cute. Like the small, fuzzy creatures we keep as pets on Krell Prime. But membership in this council requires more than just enthusiasm and, what do the humans call it? Ah, yes, spunk. Chuckles rippled through the hall. Humans have no significant military capabilities. Their technology is primitive. They have only just begun to establish colonies beyond their home system. They bring nothing of value to this council. No rare resources, no advanced scientific knowledge, no strategic advantage. They are, and I say this with all due respect, completely irrelevant on the galactic stage. He paused for effect, his mandibles clicking together in what passed for a Krell smile. The only reason we are even having this discussion is because they asked nicely. And we, being civilized beings, we did not want to hurt their feelings by saying no outright. But let us be honest with ourselves. Granting humans full council membership would be like giving voting rights to a particularly clever insect. Using, perhaps, but ultimately pointless. The applause was thunderous. Delegates from across the hall stood in approval, their various appendages waving in agreement. Ambassador Martinez sat quietly at the human delegation table, which was notably smaller than everyone else's. She had not moved, had not reacted. She just sat there watching, that same small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Next came Ambassador Uriel of the Vexillan Empire. If thorax was blunt, Uriel was surgical. She glided to the platform, her robes shimmering with electromagnetic patterns that spelled out her 17 official titles. My dear colleagues. She began, her voice smooth as quantum silk. I must echo the sentiments of High Commander Thorax, though perhaps in less colorful terms. The question before us is not whether humans are pleasant. They are. The question is not whether they have potential. They might. The question is whether they are ready for the responsibilities that come with council membership. She paused, letting her words sink in. Consider the facts. Humans still engage in armed conflicts among themselves. Their planet is divided into dozens of competing nation-states that can barely agree on basic policies. They have environmental crises they have yet to resolve. Political instability. Economic inequality. Shall I continue? Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. Furthermore, their contribution to galactic commerce is negligible. They produce nothing we need. Their art, while charming in a primitive way, holds no interest for sophisticated cultures. Their science, despite their recent breakthroughs, lags centuries behind our own. What, exactly, would they bring to this council except another voice demanding resources and attention? Uriel's holographic displays showed graph after graph comparing human achievements to those of other species. Every single comparison made humanity look pathetic. And to be fair, the data was accurate. Humans really were newcomers to the galactic stage. I propose, Uriel concluded, that we grant humanity observer status. Let them attend meetings. Let them learn. Let them grow. But full membership, that requires more than simply existing in space. That requires actually mattering. The applause this time was even louder. I noticed several delegates nodding enthusiastically, already convinced. Then came the Blorp delegation. Now, Blorps do not speak in the traditional sense. They communicate through chemical signals that get translated by sophisticated AI systems. Their representative, a particularly large fungal cluster named Spore Collective 7, released a cloud of pheromones that the translation matrix rendered as follows. Humans smell funny. Vote no. Surprisingly effective argument, actually. The Blorps controlled significant agricultural resources, so their opinion mattered despite their brevity. After 2 more hours of presentations, all varying degrees of insulting, it was finally humanity's turn to make their case. Protocol Master Xelvin called out in his nasally voice. The chair recognizes the human delegation. Ambassador Martinez, you have 30 minutes to present your argument for council membership. Please be concise. I watched Ambassador Martinez stand up. She moved slowly, deliberately, making her way to the central platform. She placed her datapad on the speaker's podium, then just stood there for a moment, looking around the hall. The silence was deafening. My Commander Thorax leaned over to one of his aides and whispered, loudly enough for half the hall to hear. Maybe she forgot her speech. Laughter again. Always laughter. Ambassador Martinez finally spoke. Her voice was quiet at first, so quiet that the audio systems had to amplify it. But there was something in that voice, something I could not quite identify. Thank you, Protocol Master Xelvin, for this opportunity. And thank you to all the distinguished delegates who have so eloquently explained why humanity does not deserve a seat at this table. She paused. You are absolutely right. Wait, what? I nearly dropped my recording stylus. Did she just agree with them? The hall fell completely silent. Every being present suddenly paid attention. This was not how defendants usually argued their case. Humans are primitive, Martinez continued, her voice growing stronger. We are technologically inferior. We have no grand military fleet. We produce nothing you need. We cannot offer you advanced science or rare resources. By every metric you have presented today, we are completely and utterly irrelevant. She smiled again, but this time it was bigger, wider, and there was something in her eyes that made my secondary heart skip a beat. So let me tell you what we can offer instead. She tapped her datapad, and suddenly the entire hall's display system flickered to life. Images appeared on every screen. Not graphs, not statistics. Something else entirely. Human faces. Thousands of them. Millions. This is Station Theta 9, you all know it. That mining operation in the Kelvin belt that nobody wanted because the ore deposits are too deep and the gravity wells too unstable. 16 different species tried to extract those resources. 16 species failed. Then humans showed up. The images shifted, showing massive mining equipment, clearly cobbled together from parts of 12 different alien technologies. We did not have the right tools. We did not have the proper training. We definitely did not have the funding. But you know what we had. She let the question hang in the air. We had Maria Lopez, a mining engineer from Earth who looked at your impossible gravity wells and said, "What if we stop trying to fight the gravity and start using it?" We had Jamal Washington, a maintenance tech who figured out how to make Krell drilling equipment work with Vexilon power cores by watching instruction videos at triple speed and taking very careful notes. We had Yuki Tanaka, a logistics coordinator who somehow managed to organize supply chains across 3 different FTL routing systems using nothing but spreadsheets and sheer spite. The images continued cycling through human faces. Each one looked tired, dirty, and absolutely determined. Station Theta 9 is now the most productive mining operation in the sector. It employs workers from 23 different species. The ore we extract feeds manufacturing plants across 15 star systems. And every single credit of profit gets split fairly among the workers. Because that is what humans do when we build something. We share. High Commander Thorax shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Ambassador Martinez was not done. This is the medical station on Praxis 4. You remember Praxis 4, right? That colony world where a bacterial outbreak killed 3,000 Krell colonists before anyone could figure out what was happening. More images. This time showing human doctors and nurses working alongside alien medical staff. Your scientists said the bacteria was too complex to synthesize a cure quickly. They said it would take years of research. They said we should just evacuate the planet and let it burn. Her voice hardened. Dr. Rachel Kim said no. She and her team of human medical researchers locked themselves in a lab for 72 hours straight, barely sleeping, barely eating. And they cracked it. Not through superior technology. Not through advanced AI modeling. They did it by trying every single possible combination of compounds until something worked. Brute force applied to a problem nobody else cared enough to solve. The images showed Krell's survivors, healthy and alive. Those 3,000 colonists you were ready to abandon? They have families now, children, grandchildren. All because humans are too stubborn to accept impossible odds. I noticed several Krell delegates were no longer laughing. In fact, High Commander Thorax looked distinctly uncomfortable, his mandibles clenched tight. But Martinez was just getting started, and I had a sinking feeling that the next 25 minutes were going to be very, very interesting. Ambassador Martinez was on a roll now, and the atmosphere in the Grand Assembly Hall had shifted from mocking amusement to something else entirely. Uncomfortable attention, maybe? I frantically took notes, my 3 fingers cramping from the speed of my transcription. "This is colony ship Perseverance," Martinez continued, and the screen shifted again to show a massive vessel, clearly damaged, listing in space near a red dwarf star. "You all received the distress call 6 months ago. A Vexilon passenger liner carrying 12,000 civilians suffered catastrophic engine failure in the middle of nowhere. No nearby stations. No rescue ships in range. Everyone on board had maybe 48 hours before life support failed." I remembered that incident. The Vexilon Empire had scrambled their fastest rescue vessels, but even they would not arrive in time. It had been all over the news feeds. A tragedy waiting to happen. "The Perseverance was 3 weeks away," Martinez said quietly. "It's a human colony ship, barely 2 years into a 5-year voyage, full of families heading to establish a settlement on New Terra." The captain, James McKinley, received the distress call and had a choice to make. The images showed the interior of the colony ship, families, children, people who had invested their entire lives into this journey. If the Perseverance diverted to help, they would burn through supplies they could not replace. They would delay their mission by months, maybe years. They would put their own colonists at risk. Any rational species would have done the math and said, "Sorry, we cannot help. Too costly. Too risky. Not our problem." She paused, looking directly at Ambassador Uriel. Captain McKinley took exactly 4 seconds to make his decision. 4 seconds. Then he turned that ship around, pushed the engines past recommended safety limits, and got there with 11 hours to spare. His crew worked non-stop for 3 days to repair the Vexilon engines using parts they scavenged from their own ship. Parts they needed. Parts they will never get back. The screens now showed Vexilon civilians being transferred, alive and well, to rescue vessels that finally arrived. 12,000 Vexilons went home to their families that day. And you know what Captain McKinley said when the Vexilon Empire offered him compensation? He said, "Keep your money. Just promise me you will do the same for someone else someday." I glanced at Ambassador Uriel. Her electromagnetic patterns had stopped displaying her titles. In fact, she looked like she was trying very hard not to look at the screens. "But wait," Martinez said, and there was definitely an edge to her voice now, a sharpness that made me sit up straighter. "Let me address High Commander Thorax's concern about our military capabilities. You are absolutely right, Commander. We have no grand fleet, no planet-killing weapons, no armies that span solar systems." She tapped her datapad again. "This is Captain David Foster, a human cargo pilot. 3 months ago, his ship was intercepted by Krell pirates near the Outer Rim. Yes, Commander, your species has pirates. Surprising, I know, considering your people's legendary honor and discipline." Oh, that was savage. I tried not to smile but failed miserably. High Commander Thorax's entire body went rigid. Krell pirates were a massive embarrassment to the Krell military establishment. They rarely acknowledged their existence in public forums. Captain Foster was outnumbered, outgunned, and flying a cargo hauler with exactly 0 weapons systems. The pirates demanded he surrender his cargo and his ship. Guess what he did? The screens showed sensor logs from the incident, displayed as a tactical recreation. He pretended to comply, opened his cargo bay doors. Then, at the exact moment the pirate boarding craft entered his bay, he vented the entire cargo hold into space while simultaneously initiating an emergency FTL jump with the bay doors still open. My jaw dropped. That was insane. That was suicidal. That violated about 47 different safety protocols. The explosive decompression destroyed the boarding craft. The FTL jump with open bay doors created a spatial anomaly that disabled the remaining pirate ships. Captain Foster lost his cargo, lost his ship's cargo bay, and spent the next 6 hours in an emergency vac suit making repairs in hard vacuum. But you know what he did not lose? His life, his freedom, and his refusal to surrender to criminals. She looked directly at Thorax again. "We may not have your military might, Commander, but we have something far more dangerous. We have humans who will turn a cargo hauler into a weapon rather than accept defeat. The silence in the hall was absolute. You could have heard a quantum particle decay. Martinez was not finished. Now, let me address the Blorp delegation's concern. You said humans smell funny. Fair point. We probably do, from your perspective. Our biochemistry is different. Our pheromone signatures make no sense to you. We probably smell like burnt toast mixed with confusion. A few nervous chuckles rippled through the hall. Even Spore Collective 7 rustled with what might have been amusement. But here is the thing about humans and blorps. 3 years ago, a fungal blight hit the blorp agricultural colonies in Sector 8. Your food production dropped 80%. Millions of blorps faced starvation. The Galactic Council held meetings, formed committees, discussed relief options, debated resource allocation. Her voice took on a harder edge. While you debated, Dr. Emily Torres, a human mycologist, spent 3 months living inside a blorp colony, breathing your spores, eating your food, studying your biology at a level that made her violently ill for weeks. She isolated the blight pathogen, engineered a counteragent using modified earth fungi, and deployed it across all infected colonies in half the time your own scientists said was possible. The screens showed Dr. Torres, looking exhausted and covered in some kind of bioluminescent fungal growth, but smiling. She still smells funny to you, I am sure. But she saved millions of your people, while the council argued about procedure. Spore Collective 7 released a burst of pheromones. The translation came through as point taken. Ambassador Martinez walked away from the podium, pacing slowly across the platform. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, but somehow more intense. You want to know what humanity brings to the Galactic Council? Fine, I will tell you. We bring stubbornness. We bring creativity. We bring this absolutely irrational refusal to accept that something cannot be done just because nobody has done it before. We look at your impossible problems and think, well, that sounds like an interesting challenge. She stopped pacing and turned to face the entire assembly. Every species in this hall achieved greatness through different paths. The Krell through military discipline and honor, the Vexillans through scientific progress and cultural refinement, and the Blorps through biological adaptation and collective intelligence. All valid, all impressive. But you all reached a plateau. You stopped growing because you became comfortable. You have rules for everything, procedures for every situation, and when something does not fit your rules, you ignore it. I was completely absorbed now, not even pretending to take notes anymore. Humans do not have that luxury yet. We are still too new, too raw, too desperate to prove ourselves. So when we see a problem, we do not check the rule book first. We do not form a committee. We do not debate the historical precedents. We just throw everything we have at the problem until either the problem breaks or we do. And then when we break, we put ourselves back together and try again. She picked up her datapad from the podium. You laughed when I walked in here. That is fine. I get it. We are the new kids. We are awkward and rough around the edges. We do not have fancy titles or impressive lineages. We cannot trace our civilization back thousands of years. Hell, we barely got off our planet without blowing ourselves up in the process. A few delegates actually nodded at that. It was true. Human history was violent and messy. But here is what you should consider before you vote. Right now, at this very moment, there are humans working in 43 different star systems, not just human colonies, systems belonging to other species. We have human engineers keeping your stations running, human doctors in your hospitals, human teachers in your schools, human farmers improving your crop yields, human artists making your children laugh, human scientists collaborating with your researchers, human diplomats, like me, trying desperately to bridge the gaps between species that have hated each other for centuries. She let that sink in for a moment. We are already part of your lives. We already matter to your civilizations, whether you want to admit it or not. The only question is whether you are going to formally acknowledge what already exists, or if you are going to pretend that denying us a seat at this table somehow makes us go away. Martinez smiled again, but this time it was gentler, almost sad. You ask what we bring to the council. We bring hope. We bring the memory of what it is like to struggle, to fail, to get back up and keep fighting anyway. We bring the perspective of a species that knows it does not have all the answers but is too stubborn to stop asking questions. We bring friendship to species that forgot what friendship looks like because they have been too busy measuring status and calculating advantages. She looked down at her datapad one last time, then back up at the assembly. You vote however you want. If you say no, we will keep doing what we are already doing. We will keep helping. Keep building. Keep being the annoying newcomers who refuse to stay in their lane. But if you vote yes, if you give us that seat at this table, then you get something in return. You get partners who will actually stand beside you when things get hard. Partners who will share your burdens instead of calculating the cost-benefit ratio. Partners who will look at your impossible problems and say, "Let us fix this together." She stepped away from the platform and walked back to her small table. That is all I have to say. Thank you for your time. The silence that followed was so profound I could hear my own circulatory system pumping fluid through my body. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Even the ever-present hum of the station's environmental systems seemed to quiet down. Protocol Master Xelvin cleared his throat awkwardly. Thank you, Ambassador Martinez. The Council will now vote on the matter of human membership. Please register your votes through your delegation terminals. I watched the voting board light up. Green for yes, red for no, amber for abstaining. The first few votes came in quickly. Several minor species voted yes immediately, probably species that had direct experience working with humans. But the big players, the ones whose votes actually mattered, were taking their time. I held my breath as High Commander Thorax's terminal flickered. Red, I was sure. After everything, after being called out on Krell pirates, after having his military prowess questioned, there was no way he would vote yes. Green. My jaw actually fell open this time. High Commander Thorax had voted yes. Ambassador Yril was next. Her terminal glowed amber for a long moment, and I thought she would abstain just to avoid making a decision. Then it switched to green. Spore Collective 7's vote came through as green as well, accompanied by a pheromone burst that translated to, "Humans smell like potential." The votes kept coming in. Green, green, amber, green, red, green, green. When the final tally appeared on the main display, I could not believe what I was seeing. 41 votes in favor, 4 votes against, 2 abstentions. Humanity had won. The hall erupted in chaos. Delegates were arguing, celebrating, protesting all at once. Some species were demanding recounts. Others were already approaching Ambassador Martinez to congratulate her. The blorps were releasing celebratory spores that made the air shimmer with bioluminescence. I just sat there, stunned, watching history happen in real time. Ambassador Martinez stood at her table, and for the first time since she entered the hall, she looked genuinely surprised. Maybe she had not actually expected to win. Maybe she had just come here to make a statement and figured losing with dignity was good enough. But she had not lost. High Commander Thorax approached her first. His massive form towered over her, but somehow Martinez did not look small anymore. "Ambassador," he said, his voice low enough that only those nearby could hear, "you made me remember why I joined the Krell Defense Force in the first place. Not for glory, not for status, but because I wanted to protect people who could not protect themselves. We have forgotten that. Thank you for the reminder." He extended one of his primary manipulator claws. Martinez shook it without hesitation. Ambassador Yril was next, gliding over with her usual grace, though her electromagnetic patterns seemed more subdued than before. "That cargo ship captain," she said quietly, "the one who saved our civilians. I have a sister who was on that liner. She has 3 children. I voted for this measure because of your speech, but I should have voted for it the moment you walked in, just because of what your people already did for my family. I apologize for my short-sightedness. Martinez smiled. No apology needed. We all have blind spots. That is why we need each other. As for me, I filed my report, documenting every word, every vote, every moment of that historic session. My report would be read by bureaucrats across the galaxy, but that was fine. Let them read it. Let them know what really happened here today. Because today, humanity stopped being a joke. Today, 47 species learned that sometimes the smallest voice in the room has the most important things to say. Today, a human diplomat walked into a hall full of beings who thought they were better than her, and she proved them all wrong without raising her voice or threatening anyone. She just told the truth, and the truth was powerful enough to change minds that had been made up for decades. I still have trouble believing I witnessed it, but I was there. I saw it happen. And I will never, ever underestimate a human again. Trust me on this.